What's up, guys? Today we are with Jamie, and Jamie worked for No Switch, No Twist, No Twitch.
No
Uh,
sweat.
sh- yes, she's a coach, and you coach a lot of women competitor. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I coach lots of males too.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
but I definitely, I mean, it's probably like 50-50.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
yeah, so a large quantity of females too. Yeah.
Okay, and today we will talk a bit about how to approach a pre-contest for a girl, because it's very different to a man aspect. Because I think a girl too, one of the biggest problem with the girl is the mental aspect of a prep and the food, the hunger, and to push through it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I think that for most females too, they're entering contest prep in a different body fat composition than most men too, right?
Yeah, yes. Uh,
So
and the girl, the caloric deficit when you start a contest prep, a girl don't eat like a man, and it's more difficult to create a caloric deficit in prep than a man. It's easy to a man to create a 2,000 calorie deficit than a girl.
yeah, and I mean, there are definitely genetic freaks out there where I mean, we probably both have seen females who come into contest prep sitting at 3,500, 3,800 calories, which is that's not the norm,
Yes,
right?
my girlfriend is a bit like that. She eat a ton of food, and at 2,500 calorie a day, she lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. And so I guess that's a good point to start on is one of the things that we look at, when we are moving towards making decisions about when contest prep should start for a female is we do need to look at what their caloric intake is at because if you have someone that is sitting at 1,300 calories, like how short of a runway is that? You really don't have much room to move
Yes.
them into a caloric deficit. And then at the same time, it's um, for do you really want them to be running the gauntlet? And then those are the people where it ends up being 2.5 hours of cardio. So ideally, they're not in a good place if that's how low their food is. So that's one aspect I think for sure that has to be considered.
And the mental aspect too, because if you are not here, you are not present in the moment. You are not focused at 100% in the to push to go in the pre-contest phase. You will not follow the plan, and it's a high risk to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one of the things that we try to do in like potentiation or improvement season is we're trying to get them to a better place metabolically after, especially if you have a female who has a tight timeline.
Yeah.
So, of course, now with the way that qualifications work, there are definitely some clients that will have a really tight timeline, and so coming out of contest prep, maybe they only have 6 months to get to that place where they're going to have to go into contest prep again.
Yes.
And it can be mentally really challenging for them during that 6 months to have that quick weight gain and to have their food pushed up really quickly in order for them to recover, for their sleep to recover, for them to have recovery, like recovery from training, and then also for them to, and this is for people who aren't on hormonal birth control, but for females to have their menstrual cycle back.
Yes, exactly. It's very, very hard, and a girl, especially the girl, don't like their looks off season. I work with a lot of girl, and they don't like to push off season because she get fat, she get bloat. But you need to be in that phase to keep progress, because uh, everybody's different. Some people, okay, for have the menstrual cycle, okay, they need to be at 20%. Some people more, some people less. To depend everybody. I know some people, they can stay very lean and have their menstrual cycle, and don't another people, another girl can't. It's very difficult.
And also, just if we're touching on menstrual cycle, though, just because a female has a menstrual cycle doesn't mean she has the proper hormone cascade, and she might not be ovulating, right?
Yeah.
And so these are things that need to be they're part of their foundation before contest prep is considered, because if we don't have um, a baseline of endogenous hormones that is optimized for that person, right? So everyone's going to have a sweet spot of where their testosterone, their estrogen, their progesterone, even thyroid markers are going to
Yeah.
be. And if we don't have those in a good place to make them feel, or for them to progress in an improvement season, what's going to happen in contest prep, because we're always going to see downregulation happen with those. So if you're not in a good spot with like progesterone or estrogen, and then if your testosterone is low, then what's going to happen as we start to add energy expenditure, take food away, and basically we're piling on stress.
Yes, exactly. And the blood marker is very important too. I saw a lot of women. I don't know why. I saw more women with high cholesterol level than men. Than men on gear.
And so, and is that because it's usually the first route of action when females become enhanced is let's just throw Anavar at them.
Oh shit. Okay. I didn't know because I saw some girl like he come at me and I saw their blood work. I'm like, oh shit, your cholesterol is at 12, is at 10. I'm like, it's very, very high. But I introduced fiber, cardio. Normally, everything get in place after a couple of months, and but I saw more blood marker bad on female than men.
Well, and I wonder, because for usually first line is, you know, females are RX Anavar because one, it's, safe for women, and
Yes,
it's not an injectable, which can be scary. And so, I kind of wonder if that's why you see statistically more females with skewed cholesterol or like liver markers,
yes.
is because of that.
Okay, because of an hour. But I know a lot of girls took SARMs too. I think SARMs have a very bad side effect on cholesterol and the liver distress. A lot of liver distress. I saw more liver distress on SARM than Anavar or the anabolic.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it's just SARMs. People feel as though that they're less harmful, they're less dangerous, they're safer because they're not an anabolic. When really they're just a research chemical that we really don't have a lot of evidence behind at all,
Yes.
right?
Do you think it's less androgenic than Anavar, the SARMs?
Um, I think that they are not benign and they do affect. I think there is down regulation after they are used. I think the biggest thing with them is you could kind of compare it to using Anavar, because with Anavar, if it's underground, we don't know what we're getting,
Yeah,
so we don't know what
exactly.
the dosing is. The same with SARMs is, are you really taking what it says on the bottle? And is it the concentration or the dosing that it says on the bottle? Because there's no governing body, right?
E-
It's not regulated.
Exactly. And what do you do normally when you start a prep? Okay, if the blood marker is in check, the ovulation is in check, uh, and the mental aspect is in check, you go in prep.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what I want to make sure that food is in a good place, right? Do we
Yes,
have
of
enough
course.
food to support that 24 weeks of prep to get them to stage condition,
Yes,
right? And the other thing too is, where's their cardio sitting already? So is this person already doing 45 minutes of cardio a day? Because if they are, then we're gonna have to dial that back. Because also it's like, where do we have to go if you're already sitting at 45 minutes of energy expenditure? Um, like the ceiling isn't the ceiling's kind of low on that sometimes, right? So you're
yes,
already kind of setting yourself up for for failure with that. Um, and then the other thing too is like, where is their sleep at? So do they have good sleep hygiene? Are they prioritizing recovery? Like, do they understand that that is really important? What's their lifestyle like? So, what are their relationships like in their life so that they have support financially? Can they afford it?
Yes,
Are they a shift worker? So, because I'm sure you've dealt with shift workers before too. That's a
yes,
totally different breed altogether, where you are having to manipulate a contest prep like you wouldn't have to for someone else.
exactly. And for especially for the female, uh, the sleep is very, very, very more important because okay, same if they take anabolic, they they are not a man. They can't recover like a man. Same a natural man. They can't recover like a natural man. They can't do anything like a man. And when they sleep very bad, I saw a lot of fluctuation in their body weight. They are bloated. They have a digestive issue. It's very, very important to have a routine and to implement a routine in your life. And I tell that to all my girls. I saw some girl okay, have difficulty to lose weight, and I'm like, what's your routine? Do you go at the bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day? Like that, you can point every factor, uh, that don't make you improve.
You have to eliminate,
Yes, you
right?
can. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's allowing them to I mean it's before you even start prep, you have to have your list of priorities, and it's those it might only be six things. You need to check those six boxes every day, like Groundhog Day, and you cut out the rest that doesn't make you move closer to your goal.
Exactly.
So you have to be okay, like they have to have the mindset of for the next 6 months, I'm going to have to say no to this. I'm going to have to say no to this. This is going to be my number one priority. This is going to be my number two priority. Like and understanding that it's really boring and that it's like you
I love
just have
that.
to do the
I
same
love.
shit every day.
Yeah, I love that. I don't. I feel bad when I don't do the same shit every day.
I know. I mean,
Yeah,
it should be like you should already have all of those things like clockwork, and they should just be part of you
yeah,
before you even start. And I always feel like I will often take 4 weeks before contest prep starts. We kind of will call it like a tidy up phase or like a health phase. Um, but I'll use those 4 weeks to make sure that the person already has those or those habits in place before contest prep starts.
perfect. And after you,
So that's where it's like we start to like it's like tunnel vision. So all that stuff that maybe they were participating in and engaged in improvement season, everything just starts to like narrow, and now we're moving into that place where you eliminate all of the garbage that just doesn't help you.
yes, yes. And after you, okay, you go in pre-contest after that.
Yeah.
When you start a pre-contest, how you start a pre-contest? Me personally, I always start a pre-contest with the implement cardio, or if the athlete do cardio, elevate a bit their cardio or their step to keep the metabolism active.
Yeah, and I mean for it's especially those 4 weeks before contest prep starts is where we start to like throw those things out there so that they start putting them into their routine. Most of my clients, they already have a step count
Yes, me
RX
too.
for them throughout improvement season. I just like them to keep it at 8,000 steps because that's just good for general health marker, for digestion, and I try and get them to do it outside so that, they have actual sunlight on them for
Yeah,
circadian rhythm. And so, those things, man, like if you're not getting 8,000 steps a day, and if you can't fit 20 minutes of cardio into your schedule before you start prep, and it's too difficult for you, and you're not even being adherent with those things, then we have some problems.
Yes, my athlete always do cardio all year round. I always just to depend which athlete. If you are an athlete a bit more fat of season, I keep the cardio a bit more, and their step count is always here because it's good for the digestion, it's good for the insulin sensitivity, it's good for everything. You need to move
Yeah.
to keep active. If you have, especially if you have a job on a desk and you don't move, you will just get fat if you continue to eat and don't move.
Well, and so like we'll talk about people that go into contest prep that do have sedentary jobs, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's something that they should be prioritizing before even contest prep starts, because as we know, as we move into like the later weeks in contest prep, are you wanting to add more activity? That's the last thing you want to do because you're so bagged.
Yes.
So if you don't have those things in your routine already when you first start, there's a really good chance that you're not going to implement them later on when you feel like a zombie.
Yes. Exactly.
So if you get all of those things into your routine on a daily basis while you still have energy and you still have mental capacity, then you're going to stick through it and it's going to be part of your schedule every single day, all the way through those 24 weeks.
Yes, exactly. It's very important to check all the box because it, it's the it's not the coach. Uh, it's not the job of the coach to do the step and to do the workout, to do everything. It's the job of the athlete. The athlete want to win or plays well. He need to push himself through it.
Well, that's the thing, is they have to have the desire to always be refining on a daily basis.
Exactly.
So it's um, like I think about like myself as an example is, obviously we're sedentary because we sit in front of a desk and we do consults all day and we do client check-ins and we're building programs and we're doing podcasts and we're doing content and whatever else. So we're not really that active. And you think about if, when I go into a contest prep setting for myself, I sit and I block my schedule. I do like block style with my schedule so that it's from the time I get up, it's like I have steps programmed in, I have meals programmed in, I have cardio, I have check-ins, I have training, I have like everything is in there on the hour because it reminds me and I see it and then I do it.
And you are obligated when you see it, you are obligated to do it. Yes, I'm the same. I have my cardio set in my agenda. I have my step. I have my stretching. I have my training. Everything is. You need to be like a machine in pre-contest.
And it's also, if you don't, I find if you don't do that, you just won't get it done. You won't fit it in. And it's like, what's one of the best ways to do and to get more energy expenditure that isn't going to compound fatigue, and that's through step count, right?
Exactly. Yes.
The thing with step count is it takes time. So it's like I was figuring out ways so that I could, oh, okay, well, I'm going to walk to the gym because then I'm getting steps, I'm training, and then I'm walking home. And then by the time I've trained, I've already got all my steps in. Like it's like I'm always trying to think of ways to execute like more efficiently.
Yes, like when you
Like,
go at the grocery store, you can park. Further. Yes. Then
yeah, further away.
yes,
Mhm.
away than the grocery store, and you will walk more. You will have more step. It's very important. Same. It's very easy to have 8,000 steps a day. Sometimes I'm like, how the people can't do 8,000 steps a day.
Yeah. And it's like I love Instacart and I love ordering groceries to my house. And of course, like when you're only sitting at 900 calories and you're doing 100 minutes of cardio, what's the last thing you want to do is you don't want to go get groceries.
Yeah.
But it's like finding things like that to keep yourself moving,
Yes. Exactly.
right?
You.
So it's like I go to the grocery store, not because I have to, because I can order groceries, but if I go, then I get steps in and I get out of the house. So it's like, it's finding ways like that so that, and if you plan ahead, you always have time to do it.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. You are OCD. It's perfect.
Yeah, I do kind of run a tight ship, and like, I mean, I've raised two kids. Like I have an 18 and a 20-year-old. And then I also have a partner who is a shift worker. So I always find ways to make things work. And like when my kids were younger, they were both in high level sports. I also, when I wasn't a full-time coach, because it's just been over the past like 3 years that I've moved into full-time coaching. But before that, I still had to have a job, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. It was just, I never had an excuse. If I wanted something, then I just made it happen. And you just kind of have to have that mindset, right? So
Yeah.
it's often with my clients when they come to me with excuses, I'm just like, I'll have six different solutions for them.
Yes. Every problem have a solution. If you find an excuse, it's just because. Personally, I think it's because you don't want it. If you find an excuse, you're in pre-contest, you don't want it. You don't want enough to be at your best at the day of the show.
Or it's just they're not in thinking with a wide enough, like looking at things with a wide enough lens.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that for one of the things that people, the issues they run up against is the fact that they don't try enough. So if something doesn't work, you just have to pick yourself up and you try something else to find out the best solution that works for you, right?
Yeah.
And I think too many people give up with plan A.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that sometimes you have to go to plan T,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
So it's just, and it doesn't mean that all of those other plans didn't work, but it's refining it to the spot where it works like clockwork for you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like 1% better all the time.
Yes. After introduce the step, me personally, I will cut a bit the calorie in the diet.
Yeah.
Just a bit, not too much. I because like that you have more to play because you have 24 weeks on preps, and like that you have more to play. I cut a bit the calorie. I look at the progression of the client, and after when they plateau, I will maybe introduce a fat burner at like 16 week out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's of course it's going to be very individual for the person.
Yeah,
Where, and like we were talking about the amount of calories that someone might have. Where there are going to be people who you're not going to be able to get their calories up as high as you really would want them to, just because that's like they would gain too much body fat.
exactly. Yeah.
There are those type of people where they're in order to keep their body composition in a good place, they aren't going to reach a super high amount of calories. So those are the people that likely you're going to have to introduce a lipolytic a little bit earlier than,
Eh,
I mean, ideally, it would be nice to throw that out around the 10 week, the 8 week mark, but with most of the time with females, that's not happening.
Yes, it's why it's like 16 weeks out. I will introduce that because a lot of females that don't happen. Example, my girlfriend I introduced around 12, 10, because I have a lot more to play than other girls.
Yeah, and so I mean, we can talk about the whole ancillary thing too that I like to have in play with females to run year round. So that would be like metformin, telmisartan, injectable L-carnitine, and growth hormone, right? So those are some staples that we just want to run year round anyways. And that is to help keep body composition in a better place, just with like nutrient partitioning, fatty acid mobilization, and then also then once we add clenbuterol, um, then that's something too that also has an anti-catabolic effect for
Yes.
them. So So if you have females that aren't using anabolics, you can add clenbuterol because of the fact that it is, yes, it is a lipolytic, it increases basal metabolic rate, but then it also has an anti-catabolic effect so that it helps to retain lean mass, which is something that we always want to do in a contest prep setting in a caloric deficit.
That increase to the performance in the gym. And if you perform more, you burn more calorie. That keep the metabolism high.
Yeah. And I mean, with clenbuterol too, it's not something that I mean, I tend to do, you kind of do it in a cycle. So it's we reduce food, see what happens there. Okay, so we see a drop, hit a plateau, we increase cardio. 5 minutes, right? We run with that, see what changes happen. We add clenbuterol, right? We
Yeah.
should see it. We should see some change from that. And it's like you just rip through the three of those weekly, sometimes every 2 weeks, so that it's not like you're decreasing food every single check-in. You're not increasing cardio every single check-in, and you're not increasing the stimulant every single check-in either. You're applying them as they're needed. It's like minimum effective dose always.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Uh, and the GH. Okay. I think the GH. A lot of females don't use GH, and I don't know why.
And they
Because
should.
because it's maybe but it's not androgenic. You don't virilize on GH. You
Nope.
will have a better recovery, better sleep. You will be fuller too. You will burn more fat, active the metabolism. GH have
It
a
can
lot.
help with insulin sensitivity as well.
Yes, GH have a lot of property. Then the girl, I think, is a misunderstood because everybody, the girl think, oh, if I do GH, I will have a gut, or
Yeah.
and
And
we are at in the same the guy use GH. Okay, you see, we're in 2023 Olympia is the year of everybody have a small waist on stage,
yeah.
and they all use GH.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge misconception about, about growth hormone, right? Is usually those people that have blown out waist is not because of using growth hormone, it's because of the amount of food that they
Food.
push.
Yes,
Um,
and they don't control the vacuum,
yeah.
and they don't do abs. They don't stay tight on the waist.
And with growth hormone, I mean, growth hormone is fantastic for females. And the good thing about it is we don't need any more than 2 units. So it isn't as expensive for us as it is for males because, for men, I mean, it's moving up into like the 4 to 8. Um, and I mean, that's pretty expensive on a monthly basis. Whereas for females, if even just 1 unit and placing it either fasted cardio with Clen in the morning or even just putting it at night, I mean, really, it just comes down to adherence. As long as you're administering it on a daily basis. So it's definitely like something that has a lot of payoff for us.
Yes, exactly. And the L-carnitine, I never introduced that off season. I always introduce that in pre-contest. I never think about that, but it's a good idea for the girl get a bit more fat off season.
What's that? Injectable L-car?
Yes,
Yeah.
L-carnitine injected.
And I mean, I'll run that, and that doesn't matter when you take it. You can draw it with GH just because they're both aqueous and they can be injected together.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can use L-cart all throughout the year. Same amount, doesn't matter timing. I just usually pull it about 10 days out of a show. 1 second. I usually pull it like 10 days out. I mean, just because of because it can have some water retention that
Okay.
happens. But that's one of the on the list for females that we always consider before even adding any type of of anabolic.
Okay. And do you use insulin with female or no?
In the improvement season, yes. Yeah, long acting, so long acting short, so Lantus Humalog. Depending on, of course, it just depends on the female too, right?
What category?
So I mean, it usually ends up being the higher muscularity
Okay, yes.
female, so WPD. Have had some figure girls too. I mean, it just also depends on the amount of lean mass that they have,
Exactly.
um, and what their food gets up to. So it's and I think there's a misconception around, oh well, you have to use insulin as soon as your carbohydrates get to this certain amount, and then you have to add more carbohydrates, which that's not how it works. So if you get to the point where your female is pushing a lot of food, and I mean it can be 2,800, 3,000 calories in an improvement season, their hunger starts to decline, they're not noticing as many as their pumps aren't that great in the gym anymore. You don't necessarily have to see blood glucose rise either in order to administer. So that's, I mean, I think it's pretty similar with men.
Yes,
I'm just going to dose lower.
yes, I use insulin with female too. It's very a big misconception, and I don't know. It's like GH. The girl see that and say, "Oh, it's very bad because organ growth, everything." That you produce a lot of insulin. Your body can produce a lot of insulin. I don't think your 2, 3, 4, 5 IU will. That just will increase the hydration, the nutrient partitioning, the because and that will give rest at your pancreas. That too with HGH have synergy effect on the IGF-1 receptor. I think is a must to introduce insulin, and for the woman is not a virilization compound.
Yeah, no, it's not. And it's something that for sure can help with growth in an improvement season, right? So I know that I used it. I've used it a couple times myself, like a while ago. And I mean, the first year that I added insulin, that's when I was with John Jewett. He was my coach then. That was probably the year that I grew the most. Like it was ridiculous the small amount of anabolics that I was using, and the amount of insulin and food and just recovery, and like it was pretty crazy over 6 months, just the amount of tissue that I put on. So like it for sure has a place for females, and I think that it's just there's so much miseducation around it, so that it comes across as being dangerous or scary.
Yes, exactly. And okay, after the clean or the fat burner introduction, uh, because when you diet hard, the metabolism slow down because you start to don't to produce reverse T3. Uh, you implement T3 to compensate that to deplete the blood work.
Yeah, and so with thyroid markers, like of course we're going to see a down regulation at some point. I like it my females to be able to have blood work tested as soon as we start to see some signs of down regulation. So I mean, usually digestion starts first, right?
Yeah,
We'll
digestion.
start to see some slowing and GI motility, and then they'll start to have a little bit of constipation that will pop up. Even though they're getting a lot of green vegetables like soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, they're drinking lots of water, they still have lots of movement happening, like because they're doing cardio, getting steps in. Um, and so of course, I like to have my feet T3 for them, so that we're not having to like try and cut underground tablets that we don't know exactly what the dosing is for T3 and T4. I like dual therapy. most females do need both throughout, as opposed to just Synthroid. So you can use Synthroid, but then if you're not converting, then you're just going to have a whole bunch of Synthroid floating around, which isn't going to help, right? So,
Exactly.
so using both and that has to do with like thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, unless I have lab work to show that we've seen downregulation and they actually need it. Um, so I will see if they can get labs done to see where they're sitting with their and don't have blood work done to like let's see what's happening, right?
Yes.
If we're starting to see kind of go sideways, because maybe they do need estrogen and progesterone at that point too. If we see fat loss stall, lots of females, their estrogen is tanked, and that's why we're seeing a fat loss stall.
Okay. Okay. And the T3, what the maximum dose you use with a girl person?
Well, I mean, T3, T4. So normally, like a starting dose is going to be like 12.5 mics of T3
Okay.
and maybe 50 or 50, 75 of T4 micrograms. And then from there, it's just going to be titrated up. I mean, for myself, my T3 and T4 get pretty high at the end of contest prep. So I sit probably 175 mics of T4. And I think I sit at 75 mics of T3.
Okay.
So mine gets pretty high. But in the off season, I sit at 37 and a half and 100 of T3, T4. So I'm already sitting high, so mine's going to increase quite a lot.
Okay, me, I use depend the female too. I use some female don't need as much as the other. I play with, but I don't play with T4 more than 100.
Yeah, usually they don't need more than 100 of T4 unless they already have thyroid medication and they're on thyroid therapy before contest prep starts. So I'm just on that year round. I mean,
Yes.
I'm 46, so
But with GH you can run T4 all year round because you convert more T4 to T3, and that will improve your nutriment partitioning
yeah.
at 2 IU and more than the GH. We can see a better nutriment partitioning with T4. Understood that.
Yeah. And I mean, with females, we don't necessarily need more than 2 IUs of growth, but
Growth.
it does help for sure.
As
Yeah.
okay, the T3 honestly I run between 25 to max 75 of T3, but I know T3 is very catabolic. T3 for sure you need to pay more attention to the athlete for don't lose muscle mass at 75 microgram than 25.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about if you have an enhanced athlete though who is using anabolics, what are the chances of them being catabolic?
Exactly. Exactly.
But if you're needing more than that, then should this person be in contest prep?
Yes, it's true. It's true. But I saw some female use 125, 150. I saw that thing.
Yeah, and I think that that also is just like um that you don't want to take your thyroid hormones to be super physiological. I think that's the misconception around it is for thyroid medication, we are supplementing it to bring you back to baseline.
Okay.
That's why we're using thyroid medication. It's not because we're trying to take your thyroid hormones to be super physiological. That's not the point whatsoever. Yes, with anabolics, we're going super physiological, right?
Yes.
And even with testosterone levels with physique-based athletes, usually we like them to sit on the higher end of testosterone levels, maybe a little bit higher than what is on a lab test. Because we're based athletes, we're not Gen Pop. But estrogen because oh,
Wait a minute, the connection bug.
oh, can you hear me?
Yes, wait a minute. I will check something. I will check if I. Okay, it's perfect. I know. Okay, yes. Okay, and for you, the thyroid hormone at 75 microgram, you're in the high range.
Yeah, well, I mean, 75 mics. I don't see for most females we don't need to dose any higher than that.
Yes,
I mean,
to depend the people.
yeah, I mean, it would only be if the person has um if that person actually has a script, if they go to their physician and their physician says, okay, well, you actually need this much, blah blah blah. We might have someone saying thyroid conditions that are already on a high amount of thyroid med anyways,
Yes, because I saw some
right?
guy.
So
I saw some guy on the thyroid medication on T4 at 400 a day. Yes, it's why T3 thyroid hormone it is very vague. It's not dosage is right for you. Like the test, I coach a guy now, and his test for be at 10 in the range, and is not in the high range. He take 300 milligram of test a week, and his test level is at
yeah.
10.
So is that farm grade test though?
Yes, his farm grade is dalatestrel.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean that, but it just shows you like how some people metabolize and what they need. That's why it's like give like a blanket RX for or protocol for thyroid, and it's just like, okay, at 12 weeks out, take this much this much T4, and it's the cookie cutter that they give everyone.
Yes,
But someone might not need that.
exactly.
Like, I don't think that thyroid hormone should be a let's add it in at 12 weeks.
Yes, is
It should be, let's add it in if it's needed.
exactly is person dependent. I know some people don't need thyroid medication in prep, and I know don't other people need it.
And then it's something too that also needs to stay in play post show.
Yes, because the rebound after is very, very terrible. I know some people stop everything post show and the rebound 30, 40. So the girl is very terrible. Put on a 120-pound girl, 30 pound. It's terrible on the look and they feel bad. And because thyroid hormone play in the head too, in the brain, a function in the brain, and you feel depressed, you have no energy. It's why it's important to keep it in place.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you look at the girls that if we're talking about having like bikini girls or wellness girls, that usually end up having to have a super high amount of output, like stepwise, cardio wise, just because the way you diet them because they don't have a lot of lean mass. And so I like their down regulation of thyroid is inevitable. And if you don't have them on therapy post show while they're recovering, I mean, it's like it's terrible for them. Like it's everyone has post show blues.
Yeah.
Everyone has it to a different degree. But if you take someone who like that who and you don't have thyroid support for them post show, you can imagine what happens with post show depression. I mean, it's like 100 times worse.
Yeah, same the guy do post show depression, and they don't necessarily stop the girl. They just reduce, remove the trend, remove some things, and they get it. the girl is very, very, very worse, uh, because they have a way more body dysmorphia, maybe too.
Yeah, we for sure do have far, I think we have a lot more extreme body dysmorphia that happens post show. And then especially if you get girls who are wanting to try and stay lean
Yeah.
post show and they aren't willing to increase their food to recover, and they aren't willing to taper out of cardio because they want to keep their, their contest leanness. um, I mean that's even worse for hormone dysregulation, right?
And the hunger on a girl is the ghrelin on a girl is more heavy than a guy. No.
What, ghrelin?
Yes, ghrelin. They are more hungry than a man.
Yeah, definitely. Like with I think that a lot of it has to do too with just the fluctuation in hormones around menstrual cycle too. We tend to have well, I mean, most females will have more, we do have more hormone fluctuation, which I think affects us even more post show, with hunger signaling, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like for men, for the majority of male aesthetic based athletes, they all carry far more lean mass than what we do. And so I feel like guys can get away with post show binging a little bit more than what females can. I mean, to some degree. Like I'm not, I know that there are guys that completely blow themselves up, but for a guy to go out and eat a burger and fries and whatever post show, and to do that for 3 or 4 days in a row, they're just going to be full as fuck and look like crazy. Whereas for most females, that's going to give them 2 weeks of like water retention, digestive issues, 15 pounds of weight gain. And it's just like from that point, it's just a downward spiral for them.
Yes. Me personally, if I took diuretic, it's why I don't use anymore. I have that issue. Digestive issue for sure. Everything, rebound is terrible. Everything is terrible. But if I had a very bad electrolyte imbalance when I took diazide or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest, I mean, the difference for guys. I mean, most females aren't taking a whole bunch of diazide. Maybe some of the higher muscularity categories, even though I mean, I don't necessarily, I mean, I don't agree with using them, but I think it's used more frequently for men than what it is for like larger doses of diuretics. And that is like a ticket straight to like disaster for guys if they've loaded themselves up on diuretics and then they go out and binge following. Like I've seen some ankles. I've seen some like I'm sure you have too,
No,
cankles and like
no,
swollen
never.
legs and
No, no,
moon
never.
face and
Moon face, yes. Is my face, and I can lose my abs in the off season. I never lost my abs. Same at the 7,000 calorie a day. Never, never. And when I'm post show, it's the only time in my life I have so much water in the abdomen. Then my abs is like wash out. I'm like, what the fuck is that fat? It's just it's just water, and it's why I stopped using diuretic, and same with my athlete, because I find we look way better without diuretic than with.
I think that I mean there are some application for it, right? You can't say that it just should never be used.
No,
It has to be in the right situation.
yes, if you example, you hold water, okay, what we do, okay, you can use a diuretic, and that will flush out for sure, that have some application. But if you can't use it, you don't use it.
If you have someone who is peeled out lean and ready, they don't need a diuretic.
Exactly.
Usually
Uh,
like an emergency, like it's like a it's like buying a lottery ticket.
exactly.
And I think like say you have someone who has a show over 2 days, which there aren't really many shows over 2 days anymore.
Uh,
Maybe there's application there for a 2 day show. Or if you have someone who has traveled and they haven't been able to get to the show 3 or 4 days beforehand and they're traveling and they have to travel the day before the show, then maybe there's application for it if they're flying. Um, but the majority of the time is like that's what prevents you from peaking properly.
exactly what I think. That have application, like you said, but if you're ready, you're ready. It's why I tell to everybody stop to try to find the magic formula to get better the day of the show. If you are not at your perfect look at like 2 weeks out, okay, you are not completely lean, you will not be good at the show. Just change nothing, just remove the stress factor at 2 weeks out to the show, and after you will be bone dry.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing too, is if you're at the point where you're having to like scramble and take diuretics that you've just messed up your timeline.
Yes.
You didn't set yourself up properly for the with the right amount of time to get contest lean.
I think is very, very less used diuretic in bodybuilding now than before. Very, very less.
Yeah, I think there is too. However, it's like some of the stuff I still see go on backstage, and I'm like, it's 2023. Why
Yeah.
is like, some of the stuff that goes on back there just with like
I,
the
I, I
food that
yes.
people eat and like I see these bikini girls that are like 110 pounds and they're like shoveling carbs in and drinking wine and I just like it still amazes me that coaches are still giving those protocols to people.
If you are a bikini girl, you can't not eat just and go to the show and be uh, be perfect. You will have a flat stomach. You will look good. I don't know why. I saw so many things. I saw so many people use very, very hard diuretic like Bumax or Lasix or, and I'm like, why you use that?
Um, and it's like one of the things that is what is like one of the things that's so imperative on stage is abdominal control.
Exactly.
And so I don't know about you, but for my females, well, and for my guys too, it's not just females, but I keep them pretty empty show day.
They eat like at example, the show is at 10, they pass at 10 in the morning, they eat at 6, and they don't eat after.
No, and it's like I pull all my green vegetables the day before.
Yes, and at 6 you eat like no protein, just a bit of carbs,
Yeah.
sodium, and if you are a bit flat backstage, I try salt in the first, after I introduce liquid and they pump, I introduce, and okay, you are okay, you go on stage. I don't give them food. I saw so many people eat like 3 4 meal before going on stage, and I'm like, shit, what the fuck? The core is very essential to have a good look on stage. If you have a crap car, you will never look good on stage. Sometimes you see a big guy wear a tank top and you are, oh shit, this guy look very awesome. Then when they remove their tank top, their car is bloated and they don't look as good. The car is very essential in bodybuilding.
Well, and like you see people that are sitting there shoveling 3 or 4 rice cakes with peanut butter, and then they're not drinking any water. So I'm like, how is this? How does this make sense? So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm a total nerd about the way that I figure out people's best look. And I know their best look before the show day happens, and it's based on weight as well.
Yes,
So I know, like, Okay, like I had a wellness girl that just won overall last weekend in Boston, and I knew that she looked best at 121. And so she was waking up at 118, 117.5. I had a good amount of room to feed her and give her water. And I knew exactly what meals to get in, how much salt, how much water to get in, so that had her best look on stage. She carried a body weight scale around with her all day, and she weighed herself every hour.
Honestly, I don't know about you, but I think the carbs, example, you have three factors. You have the salt, the water, and the carbs. I think the sodium is in first place after the water. And I don't carb my girl that much. And the carbs is at the third place because you can have a crazy pump in pre-contest on a low carb to
Yep.
almost zero carb diet on high
And
water
water and
intake,
salt.
high sodium, and you have a crazy pump. You look good. You take picture. You are, oh, I look good, and you can look like shit on stage because you carb up and you don't take that amount of water or sodium with it. I think the most important thing is the sodium. After the water, after is the carb. You can go on stage without carb that don't have that many importance if you are sodium and water low.
Well, and even with just like water and salt, I'll have like, contest preps with someone for the first time. And this is often something that I'll get in like, earlier on in contest prep where they're like, so when are we cutting water and salt out? And I'm like, we're not.
I have so many people they cut the sodium out at 4 weeks out. I'm like, man, you put sodium in every meal and you will see your performance will increase, your body temperature because that regulate too, everything. And they lost weight, and they continue. Oh shit, I look so good. Yes, because sometimes some people message me at like 4 weeks out. Hey, my prep don't go well. Can you take me to depend how you look? I can do something, but and after you reintroduce sodium water. I saw so many people cut the water like Thursday before the show. The show is Saturday, and they look flat. Especially the white guy, the white girl. They need a lot of hydration to look full. They go more on the flatter side.
And that's why like you're finding out where their best look is before the show happens, right? And so with their best look, have you cut out salt and water? No, you haven't, right? And so it's like peak week there's no magic behind it. Everything stays the same. You
Yes,
want things to stay as close to like normal as possible. We're not changing food
changing nothing.
sources. We're not water loading. We're not pulling water. We're not adding salt. We're not removing salt. We're just keeping everything the same. We don't
Exactly,
want to change.
exactly. And I started to study the peak week a couple of years ago when I listened a lot of Matt Porter, John Meadows things, and now
Yeah.
with the G3 University, I listen that. I test on myself, I test on my athlete, the same my girlfriend. When I carb up her, she looked better like 3-4 days after. She looked almost better with just salt and water. Their next show, I will not the girl written more water than a man. I will not carb or that much than I did the last time.
Well, and I think that most people think they need more carbs than they actually do.
Yes, exactly.
And so many people are so excited because they're like, "Yay, peak week is here. You're gonna carb load me." And I'm like, "Not really. No.
Exactly.
Like, you might get like 100 grams extra of carbs, but like I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, this is very individual too, but lots of females, I'll feed them earlier in the week to pull fatigue down. So cardio will start to decrease. I'll feed them a little bit more. Training volume decreases. Step count stays the same, but I feed them more and it starts to pull fatigue down, and so that then getting closer to the show, then I will feed them less and less.
It's what I will do with my girlfriend the next time. The boy, what I did normally is I start to decrease the cardio at 2 weeks out. The same the girl, I start to decrease the cardio at 2 weeks out. The cardio, the fat burner, at 1 week out, I start to increase the carbs, like not crazy, like, okay, today we will add 100 grams of carb, today another 100. Like at the end of the week, they have maybe a day like 200-300 more gram of carbs by day. And I check the look. Okay, if you look a bit watery, I pull back the carbs. I'm like, okay, go.
Yeah, and I mean it's basically at that point we should be in the place where we can start to like decrease everything so that it is washing fatigue off so that they find their best look on stage. And they're not running the gauntlet all the way up until doing cardio the day before the show.
Exactly.
Because we all know how those people look on stage.
Yes, exactly. And after the T3 implement, you continue to play with that. The fat burner, you can titrate up the fat burner, titrate up the cardio, decrease the diet, and
Yeah.
come at the show day and you decrease the fatigue. And
Yeah,
you're
and I mean, like with Clen, usually for most of my females, we're not going over 80 mics of
okay.
Clen. Of course, it's like also the source of Clen too. So of course, there's lots of underground that is not dosed effectively. So we might go to 100 mics, but it's because of the quality of clenbuterol that they're getting to. Um, and and it's like the higher the dosing of Clen too, the more CNS, like central nervous system fatigue that we have too. So it does compound fatigue. So we don't want it to be that high. I mean, there's always yohimbine too. I don't know if you ever use yohimbine
Yes,
with your female clients. Um,
yes.
yohimbine works great with caffeine
Yes.
for fasted cardio,
I
right?
use Helios is a human being, albuterol, and
Oh yeah, Helios, yeah.
yes, and
I've used it. I've never RX'd it for a client. The thing I find with yohimbine though is it exacerbates anxiety. So if you have
yes,
females that are already anxious, you don't even go there.
yes.
Because then you end up with a complete train wreck of a female.
And ketotifen, do you use it?
The what?
Ketotifen.
No.
No, you don't use it. Example, you can do less clan, and that will be more effective with ketotifen because ketotifen clear the receptor of the clan.
No, I don't. I mean, Clen, its half-life is 34 hours, right? So, I mean, and with Clen, I mean, it's like you don't need to cycle it. You
Yeah,
can,
yes, but with ketotifen, the same dose is as effective as the example. You need to titrate up the clan because that is less effective with time, but not way more. But if you have ketotifen, you can add ketotifen and use less clan and have the same result.
so when you say that Clen becomes less effective, is that well, so why do you say that it becomes less effective?
If you use like 12 weeks in Precontest, because the beta 2 receptor
Yeah.
don't regulate.
So there's actually a couple of research papers that show that it does not desensitize the receptor.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't feel the effects of it, lots of times people think that it's not working anymore.
Okay.
Um, it still is working under the hood. So there are studies that have shown people using it for 35, 36 weeks.
Okay. I thinking that decrease a bit, but not that much. Just is a bit less effective. Just Some people say, oh, it's not effective after 2 weeks. That's not true. It's effective, but a bit
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's definitely somewhat people say like, oh, well, I don't feel the shakes anymore. I don't feel the peak of clen anymore. So therefore it's not working,
I,
which
I,
is of course not true.
I never feel the shake on clan.
So the only time that I ever have felt anything was um, I used liquid clen, but it's the veterinary grade. It's called
That's cool.
why can't I think what it's called?
That's cool, man.
Ventpulmin. Yeah.
Yes.
So I used Ventpulmin, um, and that is the only time that I've ever had muscle tremors. It was from Ventpulmin.
Yeah, I'm asthmatic, and never feel it because when I was young, I was plugged on albuterol
Yep.
and I never feel the clan in my life. Same at the beginning when I used the first time Van Spillman, I did a mistake. I every push I was thinking, oh, every push is 25 mcg, but one push is 4 ml and it's 25 mcg by ml. And I took like 3 push because I was at 75. I'm like
Yeah.
310 and I felt nothing. And it was the script was there, everything was real 10. I'm like, oh, I felt that again. You breathe more good, but you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
feel the.
Because it's a bronchodilator. Yeah.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was a big mistake. I freak out because the clan can be very dangerous for the heart. It's one drug you don't want to abuse.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, do you find that clenbuterol is often, so speaking of like starting contest prep, do you find that clenbuterol is something that is often abused by females?
Yeah,
Yeah.
same T3. But the problem is the female think clan and T3 will burn a lot more calorie than they think. But that don't because that vary too. Example, if you are a bikini girl of 120 pounds and you use clan, you increase your metabolic rate. But you
You
weigh
do.
120 pounds, your metabolic rate, same increase is not that high than me at 260 pounds. Uh, is where is the problem? You will not burn like a 400 or 500 calorie more a day, no, maybe 100. Yeah. And
Yeah. It's not huge.
if you eat another 100 calorie like on vegetable or you add some shit, some sauce, you will not burn more calorie. You compensate.
So something else too, which I was curious about, is do you find that you have females that are inquiring about using GLPs, so Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, wanting to use them in contest prep or wanting to like want just in general, like have you had more females asking about them or guys?
Now I start to implement GLP-1 agonist. Uh, Ozempic is a semaglutide
Yeah.
on their protocol. Why? Because the female is more prone to have hunger issue, and for our mentality is more hard to do a prep, to overeat veggie, to have a craving and cheat, and to lie. A female sometimes lie to you and don't. No, I don't cheat or like. Okay, example. I use with a girl, lifestyle girl. Lastly, she's not in contest. Just she don't progress because she has like one cheat meal a week, but she overdo a cheat meal. She started the Ozempic, and in 2 months, same diet, nothing changed. She lost 20 pounds.
So it just was making it so she was more compliant.
Yes.
And I kind of struggle with that, with the whole um, implementing it because I feel like it's a crutch, or I feel like it's a band-aid for eating issues or eating disorders that need to be dealt with, right? And so, I mean, I always think like, can we as a coach provide help to work with them to provide them tools so that they can make better decisions? And if they can't learn how to deal with it on their own, then should they compete?
I will tell you something, okay? Example, a guy like myself, uh,
Yeah,
it's very easy to prep. I eat so much of season, then the food make me puke, okay? And
yeah.
I go in prep, I'm not hungry, and I'm not hungry all the prep. I can go all the prep, not hungry at all. Yes, I have sometimes a bit of hunger, but not that much. A girl will never reach that that amount of
But see,
food.
like, I mean, I'm like a total robot when it comes to
Yes,
prep. Like, I manage my hunger really well. Like, I tell Luke, I'm like, I'd rather have food taken away than more cardio. Take food away. I don't care. I'll deal with it. And for me, I actually like hunger because then I know I'm getting lean.
yes, me too. I know I get in lean, but I have no craving in the off season. I implement cheat meal like 3 times a
Yeah.
week, like burger fry, just because I need to keep pushing the food, and I don't get fat, and I'm so tired to eat. Then when I'm in pre-contest, I enjoy that hunger. That
I know. I know. And it's like, it's so gratifying too because you've been working your ass off, pushing food, training, trying to make changes. And it's like, finally, I get to like peel this shit off and see the improvements that I've made, right? But I just, like I'm sure you come across all the time. There are some people who their food focus and their hunger drive is so high that I often wonder, it's like, should these people be competing?
I,
I mean, that's like a whole other that's a whole other podcast to talk about, but
yeah,
like there are just some people that should not
compete.
be
I,
delving into
I,
physique-based sport.
I had a girl bikini, and she had a problem issue with the food problem, mental problem. She need to cheat, need, and I'm like, you don't like compete. And I told her, because she at 4 weeks out she feel miserable. I'm like, if you don't like compete, just don't do the show. I don't care. It's not my show, it's your show. She said, okay, she said, okay, it's not for me, and she just leave and don't do the show. And it's right for her. She don't like to compete. She like to be in shape, but at 4 weeks out is miserable for everybody. At 4 weeks out will be miserable, and it's normal. But for real, for 90% of my girl, they have food problem.
Yeah, and so and then around that is it stuff that they had before they started competing, or was it something that competing has exacerbated and created?
I think the competing exists because you are private for a long time, and after you need to eat something. I think as an example, like if the only thing, uh, if the only obstacle to reach your goal is that craving, that hunger, Ozempic is a good. I'm not against using that.
Yeah.
It's like we use GH for grow. We use a lot of thing. I think is this is the only problem for you. You can use that.
And so then with them using it, do you taper them off of it?
I will temper. I will taper off. But one girl use it, and she tell me she have more after the Ozempic. Is more easy after you don't eat uh, a lot of bad food than before, because Ozempic it causes nausea, and when you overeat, you have nausea. And when you cheat, example, if you cheat and every time you cheat, you have nausea, after your brain will have you remain you're unconscious, then if you eat that food, you will have a nausea, and it's something mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But
I just wondered because I've had people inquire about it. I've never used it. I'm usually a guinea pig, so usually I try stuff on myself first
yeah,
before I do with anyone else. And I've never actually used it with any clients, so it was more of like I just wanted to know if, you know, if you've had more inquiry about it because it seems to be the kind of like the buzz right now.
I started to use it since not a long time. I saw so many girls lost that weight just because they they can't stick on a diet without that. Is the only if is the only problem. I think Ozempic can be the solution, because it's like other drug. We use a lot of drug to reach our goal. If that is the only problem to obstacle to reach our goal, I'm not against it. And metformin can do the same like
Yeah.
GLP-1 agonist. But I don't like metformin. Metformin causes me digestive issue, and metformin make me all way very very flat. I don't know why, but that I think because metformin on paper reduce some people the IGF-1, that make me very flat.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing with Ozempic too, looking at it through evidence base, right, is there still isn't a lot of evidence base around it because it hasn't been used for very long. So it's we don't know what the long-term effects of using a GLP-1 or 2 is now, right? So that's of course for me is the only concern, because I don't know if you've seen that the creator of Ozempic is now in a lawsuit over some of the negative side effects that have been popping up because of the use of long-term use of Ozempic. So it's like that of course is metformin has been used for how many years? 50
Yes,
years?
yes.
Longer. So we know how it works, whereas with Ozempic it's still very new, right? I highly doubt that the bodybuilding world uses the same dosing as what obesity clinics use, though.
We use 500 on my girl is 500 mcg a week.
Yeah, and I believe it's I can't remember what it is for like the top dose is for obesity, but it's a pretty high dose.
3 mg, I think.
Yeah, or no, actually, I think. Well, I have someone who I had to taper off Monjaro. He was on it when I got him as a client. He was using half a dose, which is 3.75. So I think Monjaro is upwards of 10.
Wow. I know some girl at 250 mcg is very they can't eat. It's very hard to eat. If you use that amount, is because you have a real problem.
Yeah.
It's a really high for real.
Well, and the guy that that I tapered off, he wants to move into improvement season. He wants to grow, and I said it's completely counterintuitive for you to stay on Monjaro and suppress your appetite so that you can't eat over 2,200 calories if you want to put on lean mass.
Yes, but uh, some bodybuilder use Ritalin, Adderall in prep to reduce the appetite too, and to stimulate the metabolism.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's was like 220 pounds and was only eating 2,200 calories.
Oh shit, it's very
Like,
low.
and then he wanted to grow. So it was like, we need to get you up around like 4,500. Like, we need to double at least your caloric intake. And he was having a hard time getting 2,200 in. So you can see how it, like, for a bodybuilder wanting to grow, it
It's not
really,
good. No, no. I think okay, if you are a man for real, I never see a man use Ozempic. I think if you are a man and you can diet, because for real, okay, you know, some chicks need to diet at 700 calories. I never had one single guy beside 2,000 calories. Never in pre-contest. Never, never, never.
I think I've had one guy that was down to maybe I think his off days, I think he was at 1200. But his prep was a push though. Like he lost 60 pounds in his prep.
Yes, okay. But you know,
So
it's not water. Like I have some guy lost 40 pounds in prep, but mostly it's because you are at 1,000 grams of carb a day. You decrease the carb, you lost a lot of water.
yeah,
It's not fat like me. When I up to 285 and I start to diet, I lost like 15 pounds, but it's not fat. It's just I flush.
water.
Yes, it's just water. 60 pounds of fat is a
This guy
lot.
was fat. This guy was fat. And he missed the overall by like 1 point too.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
he was crazy, that guy. Like oh man, he ran the gauntlet at the end too, but yeah, he looked damn good.
do you know? I read a study that fat people have more IGF-1. It is possible. Uh,
I I've never read that.
okay,
I don't know. I
okay,
mean,
okay, because you same sometimes some fat guy you lean that mouth and you're fucking round and you look good, and they start to train and they are very very round, very you look good, man. You was just very very fat and you have the ectomorph have difficulty to gain muscle and
yeah, you want, I mean, for Louise, it was like the guy went from he had terrible training. His food quality was awful. His food timing, his frequency, like everything. He needed TRT. He needed, and
oh
once we fixed all of those things, um, I mean, his rate of loss was crazy. Like there were some weeks where he was losing 5 pounds. Um, but it was just because I think he went from such a state of like inactivity and like not doing things properly. So that you know how you have people that you where all you have to do is just fix a few things and they just take off.
yes
But then they never really see that rate of progress again because you've taken them from such a bad place to a good spot. It's like when you have advanced bodybuilders who they have everything dialed, they're the hardest to like progress like for like their physique because it's like they already operate at such a high level.
and if you have 6 pounds of fat you can gain muscle because you have calorie in your fat and you can get yeah what I do I always did with everybody when they come with me except if they finish a contest prep uh, I recommend them and after I start pushing the food and after I diet down and they never reach a low calorie intake again.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's like if you can get someone to that like to stage lean and then from that point move them into improvement season and keep their body composition in a good place. It's like they're like a different human being,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly. It's
Uh,
why it's why the best way to grow is to do one show. I think one show or one like pre-contest style a year, have a rebound after you ill phase. Okay, but ill phase you do a TRT or something for, and after you go in the off season.
yeah,
Uh, is the best way to put muscle mass. Your insulin sensitivity is high, nutrient partitioning is high, everybody's in place for you to progress, and after you will never reach high body fat again. Everybody's like is like that. They never reach after that and never high body fat again. It's very easy to get them lean.
yeah. Um, Something else I just wanted to throw out too is about um, what for especially for females, what it actually takes to, and of course this is going to be different depending on the division, but what it actually takes for a female to get true contest lean.
Okay, I never use testosterone with female. I don't know. Because for real, I'm not. I don't know enough on that. With female, okay. I use always Primobolan because I don't coach bikini. I coach like a couple, but don't a lot of bikini. Okay, and bikini use like an hour. Uh, I use Primobolan. I don't use Winstrol uh,
Mm.
because I think an hour has the same gain, but you have more fullness with an hour and you have less virilization side effect. I use like with a figure, I will use Primobolan and an hour in pre-contest.
Um, so with I mean, if you look at the division wise, right, and level of muscularity that's required, I think that something that needs to be considered is the fact that femininity um, is something that you need to retain for certain divisions.
For
So you're judged on femininity in wellness and in a bikini, not so much anymore in figure, definitely not in WPD or bodybuilding. So it's like, do we need to be using virilizing compounds for the lower muscularity divisions, right? Um, the thing that the issue that I always come up against with when once someone starts moving into using anabolics and enhancement after, like, I mean, TRT for women is fantastic. And it's if it needs if it's warranted, right? So if someone's levels are lower, then using 3 to 5 milligrams of testosterone a week is warranted if it's required, right? If their testosterone levels are within range and at the high end, then do you need to do TRT? Not necessarily. But if you have a female who's sitting at like 1 or 2 as a physique based athlete, she likely needs testosterone, right?
yes,
And
but
and
with
it's going to be just a small dose because you're going to titrate up with the minimum effective dose always. So you start with 3. If that doesn't bring your levels up, then you would move to 5. And if that doesn't move your levels up, then you go to 8. And then most females are going to top out at 10 milligrams a week, right? From there, it's like with Anavar, the issue I have with Anavar is the fact that we don't know half the time if it's Anavar or if it's dosed effectively. So if you can actually get legitimate Masteron or Primobolan, why wouldn't you use something that you can actually dose effectively and you know exactly what it is? I mean, using an oral is first pass through the liver, so then you have hepatotoxicity.
yes, but Primobolan is more counterfeit than an hour.
It is. So with Primo, it's only if you can actually have it sent to Janashek to make sure that it's legitimate. But then you do have Masteron. Masteron usually is not faked,
Yes, Master is not
right?
fake.
And both have been used in a clinical setting for females for breast cancer. So we know what dose we shouldn't use for females, but we also know how it's metabolized within females and how we respond to it because it was used in females.
yes, and the Primobolan. For real, okay, when the girl used Primobolan, I saw so many blood work, and that decreased the estrogen. And if and lot of girls don't need aromatase inhibitor.
No, there really isn't a place for AIs for females
Yeah, I know.
because we need estrogen.
Yes, and with the Primobolan alone reduce a lot the estrogen. Example, if you are a guy and you use a lot of test, no, because you convert too much. But for a
Yeah.
girl, a context with a girl, Primobolan is enough to reduce the aromatization. You're in pre-contest, your body fat is low, your ovulation is none, your estradiol will be low. Some codes show it like letrozole, arimidex, Nolvadex, but they don't need to.
No, for those females, they actually need estrogen. So estrogen patches are usually are warranted at that point to bring their estrogen up so that they can lose body fat. Have you ever tanked your estrogen? It makes you feel like a dumpster fire, like sore joints. You don't recover from training. Um, you don't like it's terrible. Like I look back to like one of my first preps when I had Shelby Starnes as a coach.
Okay,
He was one of my
yeah.
first coaches. And it was like, okay, at 8 weeks out, add Nolvadex, add Arimidex, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know any better at the time. And I felt like garbage. So I pulled them. I was like, I felt great up until this point. So why, like, so I pulled them. But but yeah, Masteron and Prima Ballin are definitely on the table for females.
I
Winstrol
use
is too polarizing.
yes, Primo Land Masteron is a I use it for the last prep of my girlfriend, Primo and Masteron.
Yeah, those are definitely the picks for injectables. But then so when it comes though to like getting females ready, like staged lean ready though, you hear so often that it's like, oh, you should never do over 100 minutes of cardio. Oh, your food should never get down to 900 calories, blah, blah, blah. If you are going to get to stage in true contest conditioning, it's usually not going to be pretty.
My girlfriend did like 2 hours of cardio, but okay, one thing it's funny about that is Jay Cutler,
Yeah.
a 300-pound guy, did fucking 3 hours of cardio a day, and you will tell him to be shred. And Ronnie Coleman, the same 2 hours, 3 hours, two training a day, and you will tell me that you will need less than that.
Well, Chris Bumstead, he was like what, 1,100 calories in 2.5 hours of cardio, I think.
You need what you need to be peeled. That's it. And I assure you, it's for sure it's better to do 2 hours of cardio a day than work in the construction. Before that, before I worked on the roof, and
Yes.
that was the fucking shit. I prefer to do 2 hours of cardio a day, okay,
Yeah.
because it's my job. You need to do that, then work in the construction for sure. If I have I have some guy working the construction, they do zero cardio and just get lean, 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 lean.
It's because they have so much manual labor. They're just moving all day long. But like I have these, I've had athletes before where they're just like, what? Like, you want me to do more cardio? And realistically, I tell people, be prepared that the end of your contest prep is going to take up 6 hours of your day. Steps, cardio, training, meal prep, like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's probably, and that's being, you know, like, and they just look at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, it is a huge time commitment. Like that's all you're gonna do are these things. Like, and if you work out of your house, you're gonna find time to do your cardio in the morning. You're gonna fit training in somewhere. You're gonna get steps in throughout the day, and then you're gonna come home and you're gonna be a pile. Like 6 hours is like guaranteed how much time a day you're gonna spend in contest prep. And I think that is a huge conversation that needs to be had with first time competitors or a new competitor that has come from a different coach.
Exactly. Yeah. In prep, I train twice a day in pre-contest.
Yeah.
In the morning because I work on the computer all day long. I can train in the morning. I can go at the gym all day long. I can train at night. It's very easy for me. My recovery is always on point. I take all my supplements, and that took me a long time in pre-contest, but I improve every day, and that worked for me. For some people that don't work because they don't recover as good as me, but you need to you need to uh, you need to want to do everything to be better. Is that in pre-contest?
Yeah. And those are the only things you should be focused on.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
That's where all your energy goes.
Exactly, because you want to win, you need to do whatever it takes to win.
And I often say to Luke, because like Luke is my coach, of course, and he knows, like I tell him, like if you told me to eat sand, I would eat sand. Like, and of course I make informed decisions, and I'm not saying I just want to be do stupid things in order to win to bring my best physique. But I'm like, if my coach, who I trust, if he tells me to do something, then I just do it. Especially towards the end where it's like, you're gonna have like your body fat, it like our rate of loss slows so much towards the end, right? So that's the place where it's like you have to make sure that you're checking the boxes every day towards the end. And I mean, that's when, yes, you will have extra cardio added. You might have extra steps added. You're going to have more food taken away. And it's like, but at that point, I'm just like, just tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Like he always jokes. He's like, if I told you to eat like shit in a bag, you would do it. Yeah, I would. Right. And this is not me saying you shouldn't question your coach. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, I always want my clients to be informed of what they're
Yes.
doing and in the loop. It's never a dictatorship, it's a collaboration. Even though, as a coach, we usually end up making the final decision because we're objective, we're not subjective. But it's like, at the end, I want it so bad that I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, and one reason why I don't use the testosterone with female
Yeah.
is because hair is not very common, okay, and they will tell like, but my coach use only testosterone. Yes, but the dosage is so low, and you produce testosterone. For real, the testosterone is. I never see a bad blood work on test. Never, never, never. Just on test.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have a female who is using anabolics, then there isn't any you don't need to supplement testosterone. But improvement season, for a lot of females, there is application for a small dose of testosterone. HRT clinics do compound test at 25 milligrams per mil and 50 milligrams per mil.
Okay.
So it's easy for us to dose that effectively. I was on TRT for years and I used my boyfriend's. So I was using underground test at 10 milligrams a week from his 200 milligram per mil. So it's really hard to dose that, but I needed testosterone.
10
So
is 5 IU a week.
It was just a small dusting, right? Yes. So when I switched to farm grade, 10 put me like at 5.5, and which is way too high, of course. I like to sit around 2.5 or 3. So it doubled my test because underground is always underdosed. So then farm grade, I sit at 5 milligrams per week for farm grade, and it keeps me around 2.5 or 3.
Okay, perfect.
So that's where I feel really good.
It's cool to know. Yes, I think it's a must to use testosterone, especially because it's an hormone your body already know what is it. It's important. Yeah. I saw so many girls have lower than 1 of a test. A lot of girls, a female post competition, less than one of test. You're fucked. Your test is very, very, very low.
Well, and you think about how does that impede progress in an improvement season if your testosterone is like in the tank? Yeah. So it's no different than men. Men with low testosterone, what happens? We accrue body fat in the belly, our libido tanks, we have brain fog, we're not motivated. Like, have you ever had low test? I mean, I have lots of guys that have come to me that have low test and they feel like trash. It's so different for females.
Yeah, you feel like trash, you're depressed, low libido, you have all the side effect possible, and you feel the same. You feel like sad every day.
Yep.
Yeah, and
And for females, I mean, we go to our family doctor and they tell us, well, that's just normal. That's just how females feel. You're not supposed to have a libido. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to be lean, blah, blah, blah. It's normal because you're busy and you have kids and you should just feel like trash. And which is not true. And so often if someone needs testosterone, what happens is too likely your estrogen and progesterone ratio is off. But lots of times as soon as you bring your baseline testosterone up, your estrogen and progesterone improve.
yes, improve. It's what I think
Yeah.
too. Yes, but the doctor the doctor don't like the doctor don't like bodybuilder at all.
No, that's why I mean at least there are some HRT clinics that are opening, and that's like one way to do it. In the States, it's far easier than in Canada. Like Canada, it is so hard for us here. It's like we're living in the Stone Ages.
The first time my doctor saw my blood work, my creatine kinase
Yeah.
was at 7,000. They called me, they say, oh, you will die, go at the hospital. I'm like, yes, but it's normal. I'm like 260. I was way like in this time. I'm like more than 200, and I train hard.
Yeah, either that or it's like they look at your testosterone level too, right? And it's like above that you can't you don't even get a value because it's so high.
Yes, it's
And
yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh my God, your prostate is going to explode," or you have to get your PSA tested, or it's just like there's so much
like
miseducation.
like my ALT is always high. Like
Yeah.
I want around 100, but when I don't train like 3-4 days in a row, my ALT is fine. And the doctor don't know the ALT is an enzyme, and when you train, your ALT will be high. For
Yeah.
sure, is the GGT is important for your liver.
Yeah. And I mean, I just get my clients to not train for 2 days before they have blood work done. And then usually their levels will be lower. But if you always go after you train, then your trend is just going to be high. So we look at trends.
Yes, me, my GGT was at 12, and my creatinine is very low. Is impressive. Is
Yeah.
at the last time was at 69, and
Yeah.
GFR was more than 120. The machine can't read because. But
Yeah.
you need to take your supplement all year round. You need to check all the box to be on point, because healthier you are, longer you will be in the sport.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another pre-contest thing for females too, is so if you're not enhanced and you're moving into enhancement, which you would do before contest prep, you're never going to run a cycle for the first time in prep because you don't know how you're going to respond, and it can totally trash your prep. So you're going to become enhanced before you enter into contest prep. You're going to do it in improvement season so that you know how you respond to whatever it is that you decide to run. But people think that anabolics are expensive. Anabolics are not expensive. It's all of the supplements, the over-the-counter supplements, and blood work, and all of those things that are expensive. So that's something that people need to understand pre-contest too. So pre-contest, make sure that you have enough money financially to buy all the supplements that you need. So you might need to add supplements towards the end, like phosphatidylserine. You might need to add GABA to help with sleep. Phosphatidylserine is expensive. And there's also other supplements that you might have to add depending on what happens in prep. But then what if you have to get blood work run partway through prep? That's $250, sometimes $500.
Yes, yes. That costs less. Here is 100.
Yeah, and like here in Alberta, we don't have private labs.
Okay, we don't have, it's not private labs, is I go in the doctor, private doctor, they give me a script. I go in the CLSC, they do my blood work, and I have in one, but that take time. It's like 1 month to have it.
Yeah, and I have to go to a naturopath, so it's about $400 for me to have blood work. He'll just run whatever I want, but it's $400.
Oh,
So it's expensive.
it's expensive.
So
Okay.
now I live on the Montana border, so we drive to the States and have blood work done there for $200.
Oh, it's very less expensive.
Yeah, it's just expensive, but it's something that you have to have in your budget.
Yeah, it's a very expensive sport, and everybody want to compete, need to know that costs money. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, write a comment about what subject you want to know more, and we will discuss that in the next video, and ring the bell.